the great news is that most people are finding life, very comfortable and are integrating easily. People who are coming here, we now know from a recent survey conducted, are predominantly professionals. They have advanced degrees. They come with children, but are really keen to work. So we're dealing with a cohort of people who are really keen to integrate into British society, to really contribute in the best way they can, starting, of course, in the labor market. And what we see, because there are, of course, pre-existing communities here, people tend to gravitate towards the places where they have friends or have heard of, or even relatives. So you have a number of places, for example, Sutton in London, where lots of Hong Kongers have gone. But the real challenge now, as numbers rise, as you say, from that 90,000 cohort that has already arrived up to potentially 250,000, to ensure that that Hong Kongers see the benefit of living in lots of places across the United Kingdom, not just where Hong Kongers have settled until now.
So when you're doing, when you're reaching out to these communities, what sort of work are you doing, and how easy is it really to encourage people to spread out and to integrate into British life? I noted that in Hong Kong, many groups were flying British flags as flags of freedom against the tyranny of the CCP, which is a really quite heartwarming thing. Speaking to a lot of people in this country, you wouldn't necessarily think that the UK flag would be flown by people who are proud of what it stands for in other parts of the world, but that seemed to be happening. It seems like Hong Kongers are people who will integrate easily and integrate well.
I think you're making a wonderful point, which is the fact that from Ukraine to Hong Kong, the British flag is now seen as a real beacon of freedom. And it's particularly true for Hong Kongers coming here. The first wave of people coming, you'd not be surprised to hear, have been people who have been on the forefront of the barricades, often younger students, those who feel particularly targeted by the Communist Party. But what we're also seeing now, as the numbers swell, are people who haven't necessarily been at the forefront of the political protests, families, working parents, those who may sympathize with the street protests, but themselves have not necessarily been involved. But what they do see and what they realize is that there's no future for them and their family, their children in Hong Kong, as Hong Kong is integrated further into China proper. And so they're coming. And the reason it's important to highlight that is that means there are lots of different needs. The people who are coming straight from the barricades with an arrest warrant issued against them, who often want to kind of continue the struggle in Hong Kong, but from somewhere else like the UK, have very different needs, requirements, expectations than those who might be coming for a slightly quieter and safer life. So what's so important going forward now, as I say, when we go from 90,000 to potentially 350,000, is to help people in all manners and ways to help them into education if they need to ensure that their qualifications, many of whom arrive with pre-existing qualifications, to ensure that they're recognized. We have lots of people with experience from the health service, just at the time when our health service needs people to join. So we have to ensure that doctors, nurses, and so on can easily integrate.
Just finally, Daniel, we've only got 30 seconds left, but could you just explain what we can do, what anyone watching here can do to help integrate, to help welcome these people who have been fleeing communism and want to make their lives in a free Britain?
It's a great question. If people come to your community, reach out. If children rock up in your school, reach out to their parents, show the sort of welcoming that we have shown to so many people that makes integration so successful, and ultimately this country so successful. So when you see people, whether at work, in your schools, in your local community, make that extra effort, reach out, suggest a cup of tea, and for ways in which you can help them understand what life in the UK is all about.